My name is Lucasa Bronfman-Verissimo, and I'm an artist, educator, activist, curator, and storyteller based in Oakland, and I'm a part of the ctrl+SHFT Collective.
My name is Kirsten Bramer, and I am a photographer and artist based in the Bay Area, and I am part of ctrl+SHFT Collective.
Hi, I'm Jay Panza. I'm an artist, I'm an arts worker, and part of ctrl+SHFT Collective.
Hey, I'm Jessica Hubbard. I'm a sculptor and an artist, and I'm a founding member of ctrl+SHFT Collective.
I'm Sophia Schultz-Rocha. I'm a filmmaker, artist based in Oakland, and I'm part of ctrl+SHFT Collective.
When we started, we were pretty adamant that we were going to be a fully democratic organization. So we were in the middle of building out the space, and we're like, what are we going to call ourselves? What are we going to call ourselves? And we all had kind of our own ideas of what the name should be, or what it should kind of mean. And we landed on ctrl+SHFT. We felt that it was kind of a play on what was going on in the whole Bay Area tech scene. But also, more importantly, just wanted to shift control from the institution that we were just leaving. We were all graduating. The majority of us were graduating out of graduate programs, and really just wanted a space that was different. That we, not to play on the word control, that we had control over. We had a say in, and that's kind of how it started.
Oakland's special to me because there's room for experimentation, there's room to challenge norms and challenge institutional ways of creating community, of making art, of being support network to one another.
Special to me because, number one, ctrl+SHFT is here. But other than that, I feel I really have the freedom to, make the work that I want to make and I need to make, the room to do it, and the community around me to support it. So,
Oakland is special to me. Coming here from San Diego, it was really much more about going to the Bay and sort of finding myself, and then getting more into the narratives that happen here in the Bay. I cling on to Oakland much more because there's a heavier sense of community, and there's a lot of those things that I've been. There's nurturing that's happening with everyone for the most part, and there's so many events that various narratives and all the cultural work that needs to happen that kind of is going against the grain of fast commodity, and it's about building together and holding each other up as a platform for each other. That's kind of one of the main reasons why Oakland stands out the most.
It's the humans that live here, right? It's the people that have come here because there are discussions here happening about so many important things that have to do with the arts and politics and race and gender and all these things that I think very much we're questioning and thinking of new ways to process and work through them. And I think that the community here is so important because there's room to have these talks.
I was drawn to coming to the Bay a lot because of its deep history with the intersection of art and social justice and activism that is deeply in the roots of Oakland and of the Bay Area. And I don't know, it's one of the biggest reasons why I love this place, and also I'm constantly challenged by it. But yeah, just giving space for these conversations to be had, and space for many varieties of different kinds of spaces to be supported and activated. And it does feel very rare. It feels like the more I go to other places, I realize how lucky we are to be in the Bay, to be in a place that supports and prioritizes us. context is definitely a tool for asking big and questions that are hard to ask in a climate such as the Bay Area, such as a neighborhood that's changing, that is historically a Black neighborhood that isn't anymore. I think it's really complicated because artists in so many ways are the gentrifiers in so many communities and so many spaces, but also have the power of like asking these hard questions and allowing dialogues to be had or allowing change to be made in other forms.
For us here at Control Shift, like we're really interested in ways that kind of shift the ideas around like creating artwork for an institution. Like Control Shift like shows up for the possibilities of collaborating with communities on an international standpoint and in a local standpoint. For this year, our curatorial call was specifically for Bay Area curators and artists, and the current show right now is an example of that. What happens when there are spaces that actually opens themselves up for the possibilities of intersecting margin voices and marginal differences and how those actually interplay together. It's more about like, okay, let's explore this in a space, and that's what this space is for. We also understand that we have this space to help and collaborate with other artists, and so that was kind of one of the biggest reasons to me why community is much more of like an important thing in consideration and conversation with art.
I kind of think of it in more of like a broader term, like a community without art or a community without a space to be able to express yourself is not necessarily a community that I want to be a part of. Even if we can just do the littlest bit to open a space for, you know, artists to show or, you know, people to come and congregate in any sort of way that, you know, that is needed at the time, is extremely valuable to me.
The ways that we both like support artists in our community through our exhibitions and our programming, and also support our community by literally having affordable studio space for honoring and prioritizing artists in our community. I always think it's a radical act that we have studios that we can semi-afford and have a space, a safe space.
And one of the questions that we have as a collective is just like, we're showing up for artists, we're showing up for all these voices, but like, what does our presence, like what it means for us to be in this space also is something that we question. Like showing up for people who were born here and people who have roots here. Our community is like femme identifying, queer identifying, trans GNC identifying people. There is some sort of exclusivity that exists also with art spaces, and we want to make sure that like our actual neighbors can come into this space without feeling that they have to know about the art scene. What we do here is to think about all the marginal voices that are not gaining access to physical spaces.
When we first started Control Shift, like all these new buildings that you saw when you were, I'm sure, drove up, weren't here. You know, our lease is only X amount of years, and with all this new construction, at least for me, like that's like one of my biggest fears is that like we're just gonna get priced out of the space, and then you know all the people that this collective supports like won't have somewhere to go.
Yeah, this place is like truly a labor of love. We spend so much time working on grants and fundraising and events and things just to be able to like support and subsidize this gallery space. To be able to afford it, it's a constant challenge of like time and effort and love to just really like come together and try to like make this space still here, you know, like keep it around.
And I think you know, it's like the most important time that spaces like these exist, and yet it's the hardest time for spaces like these to exist. It's all the inequities of money and access that are being brought into this community and into our own neighborhood and into our own block. It feels like it is the biggest challenge right now. It's like we have to exist because we know how important this space can be and has been for so many hundreds of artists. This community and this city isn't making it so that they're thinking about ways for us to sustain or strive. And it's like, makes me wanna cry and feel heartbroken about this place that I have chosen to make community in. And we all do so much incredible free labor for this collective, and it's like 100% worth it. And also, I think we need to come together as a city right now and really figure out how we're gonna make sure that these spaces can live on.